Okay, let me know when.
Good afternoon. It is February the 3rd, and we are in the midst of our third phase of our Safe City Initiative meetings. And certainly we thank each and every one of you for participating in these discussions, those that have made it through the weather here in our great city, and certainly those of you that were able to join us via Zoom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As I said before, this is our third Safe City meeting, and I believe this is the meeting that we are moving toward some definite goals. So at this point in time, let the record reflect that Councilmember Carlson is in attendance. Councilmember Yancey is in attendance. This is a notice of potential quorum. It is not a formal meeting. And so we will begin, and certainly we are expecting to have Mayor Pro Tem Compion join us at some point, and possibly Councilmember McAuliffe. And so let's begin. We'll turn this over to the hands of Chief Randall Argon.
Thank you, Mayor. This is phase 3, the final meeting where we're going to have final goals regarding the Lamarck Safe City Initiative. And before we go into the goals and so forth, I'd like to go around the room real quick and have say hello to our subject matter experts and those that are on the Zoom. Okay, starting on my left, Chief Constable Rose. Derek?
Derek Rose, Constable Precinct 3, Galveston County.
Paige Michelle.
Paige Michelle, Texas City Lamarck Chamber of Commerce.
Russell.
Russell Washington, City Marshal with the City of Lamarck.
Okay, and on Zoom, I see a bunch of the subject matter experts. Let me start over there. I got Mandolin Salazar. She's been helping us out with RCC and social welfare agencies. Mandolin, introduce yourself. You're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Hi. Can you hear me? Hello. Thank you for having me, Chief. Yes, I'm Mandolin Salazar with the Salazar Peace and Justice Center, retired public health practitioner, community organizer, and an advisor to the city and giving input on this initiative.
Okay, thank you, Mandolin. I see my good buddy, retired Chief Lawrence Johnson.
Good morning. How are you?
Say a few words, Lawrence.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm kind of locked in today because of the weather. We've got about 5 to 6 inches of snow, and it's roughly 8 or 9 degrees here. So it's something for me to do, Randall. Thank you.
When he was the chief in Little Rock, Arkansas, he and I, my bride, we went to Tunica. Had a nice time up there at one of those casinos. It's great. We had a floor show. But anyway, good to see you, Chief. To the left there, Joan Rush, Community and Schools, right?
Yes, it's Joan Burns, but that's okay. I'm the Executive Director of Community Schools of Galveston County, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Joan. Chief of Law Enforcement for the schools, Derek, Lieutenant Fillmore. Say hello, Derek. You're on mute, I think. Okay. All right, we got.
Here I am, Chief. Derek Fillmore, Lieutenant, Assistant Division Commander for the Galveston County Sheriff's Office, School Liaison Division.
Thank you. Vincent Herrera from TNMP.
Yeah, Vincent Herrera, Director of Engineering, Texas New Mexico Power. And I'm actually up here in my state in North Texas. So here I am.
The lighting man.
Yes, sir.
We've got my Deputy Chief, Chad.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Chad Wagner, Deputy Chief.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Okay, with the council, starting with City Councilman Mike Carlson.
Hi, I'm City Council Member Michael Carlson.
Kimberly Yancey, Councilwoman for District A.
And the mayor already introduced us. I think that we've got everybody. Today's meeting, let me give you a little background. We're going to get out of here hopefully in 36 minutes. So I do that when I have a meeting. I learned years ago, if you want somebody on time, you say, well, your meeting's set at 9:04, and they show up for some reason. But okay, they'll be on time. But I'm going to try to keep it to that time frame today because we really have done a whole lot of work. I'm kind of glad it's finished. I've been spending a lot of time and energy for all my staff, the mayor, asking questions, and it's finally come to fruition. Okay, we have had, this is the third and final meeting. The phase 1, October, phase 2 was in November, phase 3 is now, we had 2 Zoom meetings, and that was just for the subject matter experts to come up with the goals. And this is it, the mayor's vision of having Lamarck, Texas, be the safest city in the state. I think we're getting there. Crime rate is going down a little bit. It surprised me, but something's working. That's the last 6 months up to versus the prior year. Has been a slight decrease, and we'll be reporting that in the near future. But the actual mission was to come up with the goals to make us the safest city in Texas, prevent and control crime, and reduce the citizens' fear of crime. And we've come up with some pretty good goals. Obviously, it's going to take the council to help us get there. Some of these are monetary, but nevertheless, we're there. And I'm going to pass this around to the council members. And Kyle, if you would put that video up there.
Thank you, sir. Can you go ahead and play it?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Roy Taylor, Chief of Police for Capitol Special Police in Raleigh, North Carolina. For the past several months, I've had the opportunity to work with your community members and Chief Aragon to develop a specific set of goals, all to reduce crime in your community. I think you'll find that over the next several years, implementing these goals will achieve that objective. The first goal is to reintroduce community policing. If it's one thing I know Randall Aragon is very familiar with and has a passion for, is community policing. I've got the same passion, and I'm very pleased to hear that that's how your community is going to proceed. I also like the idea of implementing CompStat. CompStat will help you identify the areas where criminal activity is occurring and allow you to focus on those areas to reduce crime. And hopefully it'll even give you some predictive analysis so that you'll be able to stop crimes from even occurring. Establishing a trained gang unit will also be of benefit to you. Hiring a contractor to assist in crime analysis will also be a big benefit. Participating in the Texas Recognition Program will certainly show the community that you're open to doing things in a professional way, and achieving that goal will be something that you can celebrate in a very public manner. Employing the community-directed patrols will assist those neighborhoods that are having issues with crime and allow you to address them specifically. Applying for grants to obtain additional staff to focus on community policing and crime reduction will also be of great assistance. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity I had. You've got a great group of people working together, from the mayor to the commissioners, to social services, faith-based community. You've got a good group of officers, and you've got somebody that's able to pull all that together. Chief Aragon is the right man for this job, and I fully support all the goals and look forward to hearing your success stories in the near future. If I can ever be of service, please don't hesitate to call on me, and I really do appreciate the opportunity I was given to have some input in this process. Thank you again, and best of luck.
Okay, Chief Taylor, Dr. Taylor couldn't make the meeting. He had a court appearance at this time. So I asked him if he would send his commentary, and that was it, his video. I didn't pay him for that. Okay, what I'm going to do is go around the room to the subject matter experts that have been helping us get here to say a few comments. So let's start out with Mandolin. You're up.
Okay. Yes. First of all, thank you, Chief, for giving me the opportunity to, provide input. This Safe City initiative is what I call co-produced. We're community-oriented policing. The community, various different experts came together, and of course, what I call public health, combined its scope of practice to strengthen public safety, to create those partnerships and empower the community. Everyone plays a part. And the greatest investment to a community's public safety is not only monetary, but we're all hands are on deck, that all hands are on deck approach. And I just think we've come up with, some really, really good goals. It's very broad, and it's got a lot of good stuff in there. And I'm excited because I think that this document is going to really define and maybe be a model for other communities around us. And I feel really good about it. And it has just been really an honor, sir, to work with you on this and everyone else. So thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. Chief Johnson.
Thank you. First of all, let me thank Randall for giving me the opportunity to be part of this. I think it's going to be extremely important for the future of Lamarck, Texas, as you move forward and try to address the issues that are facing your community. I think the goals that have been set are going to be wonderful goals to meet. I think anytime you can reintroduce community policing within a city or a town, it's going to be good for all involved, especially as you reach out and bring in those people within the community to be part of the process. And I know Randall is good at that. He's an expert at doing that. So that, I think you have one up. I believe that introduction of the Crime Stat program to track crime and to try to get ahead of the curve is one of the most important tools that's been implemented in the last 15 years as it relates to dealing with crime and crime problems within the community. So I think that's an important aspect of what you're trying to accomplish. The dedicated gang unit, I believe, is going to be an asset as long as it is properly supervised and the information that is gathered is properly sorted and analyzed to be effective. So I think it's going to be a great program. I look forward to hearing about the goals that you've met in the future and the exciting stories that's going to come out of how you're going to change the problem that you now face in Lamar. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. I remember I went down to visit Little Rock during my tenure as chief in Conway, and he was going through a CompStat meeting, and you remember this? I was there. And
I do.
One of the captains, he was saying, okay, CompStat is you ask the person in charge of that area, a geographical area, what the problems are and what are you doing about it. So he did that, and this person needed some praise. So Lawrence said, hey, I appreciate you doing it. And he kind of threw it off like it wasn't nothing. He says, well, you better understand this. If it's bad, I'm going to do the other way. And you're going to have to accept it. But remember that, Lawrence?
I do. And I tell you, one of the things that we have failed to do, in my opinion, in law enforcement is to hold people accountable. We train them, we educate them, and hopefully we pay them well. But we fail to hold them accountable as it relates to their areas of responsibilities. And I do think that that CompStat meeting is one of the most important tools in your tool bag to do just that. And so I believe very strongly that that is going to be an important asset as you move forward.
Thank you. Vincent, you have any words regarding the task at hand?
Thank you for the opportunity. I've learned a lot. I'm no expert on security. I do understand electricity and lighting, and that's why I'm here, is to help support the city of Lamarck with your, fact-finding mission, especially for the lighting and what can be done to improve it. And we are supportive. TNP is very supportive of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Okay, Lieutenant Price, Jeff, I didn't know you were there, and Jeff is our Patrol Services Division Commander. All the uniforms work for him. All the uniform officers work for Jeff. Jeff, you've been kind of keeping up with us. Any words of wisdom?
No, sir. I'm just here to learn and see what y'all got to say.
Okay. All right, I'll pass it over to the Deputy Chief.
All right. Yeah, I kind of mimic what everyone else has said. I think it's nice to see community policing back. One thing, Chief, you and I have discussed is the structure. We're starting to see structure come back, which is very, very important in a department. And with that structure also comes the accountability. And these, we've already had the kickoff meeting the other night for community policing, so we're getting that started. And next is when we get the CompStat started, I think that's gonna be recognized not just by the department, but by other departments in the community as well. So I think we're on the right track.
Thank you, Chad. I think that's it on the subject matter experts from Zoom. On my left, Chief Constable Derek Rose.
Thank you, Chief. It's great that I sit here amongst all these individuals. I always learn that a person that says a lot doesn't have anything to say. So I'm going to be just real brief. I remember when you were here before and you started community policing, and it worked. And I'm excited to what's going to be happening in the city of Lamarck with community policing going forward and all the initiatives that you have here that I see. I'm excited. I support you. I support the city of Lamarck, and the constable's office is going to do all this can to help with everything that we have here.
Thank you, Derek. Nice, great hearing that from you. Paige Michelle, the Executive Director for the Chamber of Commerce, Lamarck in Texas City.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be part of this task force and very impressed by the team that you've put together. And my role is to take the message out to the business community and also all those who are thinking of moving here to live here and do business. So I'm really happy at the goals and just really impressed by it and happy to be the one that carries the message out.
Thank you, Paige. Go ahead. City Marshal, Russell.
Thanks again, Chief, for letting me be part of it. And I do know that you do have an impressive team here. And I love the way the city council is on board and they're moving to help you move in the direction that you're talking about. Being that I live in the city, I see changes in the city maybe a little faster than anybody else. We were talking about the lighting that you talked to the gentleman about. And I happened to be riding down Bayou Road the other day, and I noticed there were some more lights down Bayou Road.
Yeah.
So just that quickly, the things that you're trying to implement, we can see. Being working kind of hand in hand with a lot of the officers down at the PD, I can see the change down there also. You can see it in the officers, the way they behave, the way they move, and everything like that, which I'm really impressed by. The community policing, I did that when I was an officer here back in the mid 80s, early 90s. I'm happy with it. I'm also happy with the stat thing, and I'm happy to see that the city is on board with getting people in the community back involved in the community. And I'm also happy to see that as a city, as a police department, as a fire department for the city of Lamarck, that we're able to handle our situations ourselves. When we need help, we call in help, but other than that, we're willing to be the front line to take care of any problems that we might have. And I'm excited. I talked to some young officers about the SRT programs, and those officers are excited about getting started with that too. So from where I'm looking, Chief, it's a plus. I'm excited. I'm probably gonna spend the rest of my life here, and I'm excited about what's happening in Lamarck right now. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Russell. Okay, I think I've got all the SMEs. Kyle, I want to thank you for being the IT king, and none of this would happen without you and Vinny. Okay, yes. Kiara, you too. You're magic. Okay, before I move on, there's 5 goals. I know I have sub goals within there, but you know, I promised we'd keep it to 5. You do too many, you know. I like to under promise, over deliver kind of. So here's I'm going to read them, go over them real quick. They're going to be presented to the mayor to discuss it with council, and some of the stuff might have to be budgeted for next year. But nevertheless, this is what all the subject matter experts and myself have agreed upon. Okay, it's on the board there for those that are here. Goal 1, reintroduce community policing. We already have. Monday we kicked off. Jennifer was there, a bunch of you were there. Lake Road North. It's the same area we had in 2010, believe it or not, March of 2010. And we had 16 to 10 that time. We had 31 to 10 this time. So we did something right. They had some goals. David? Sorry, Terry.
What about reactivating the ones we already had?
We reactivated it basically.
But like I say, that was a new one, but what are we doing to get the old one going again?
Right. Well, there's some community watches in name only, and some are active, but there hasn't been any law enforcement cohesiveness. You got to have a community watch is great. That's citizens, but to have police they're interacting. That's what really should happen. And we're back to doing that. So Lake Road North has an officer. Calvin Harp was assigned. He's working the street now, knocking on doors, introducing himself, doing a survey, and we're going to fix what the concerns are. And he has a mission of solving problems. He's got a form that says problem solved, and I'm going to be looking at it. So I hopefully see something on there. That's how we work with community policing. Just to let you know, community policing is changing the philosophy of policing. You've got two types of policing. You've got traditional or reactive. In other words, you call the police, send a car, and we make an arrest. They get back in the car, get on, answer a call, make an arrest, take a report, get back in the car. That is not getting to the root cause of the problem. Community policing involves officers taking a report, trying to solve the problem, or making it even better. It's preventive policing, prevent it from happening in the first place. I tell officers that we hire, your major job, your primary job is preventing crimes from happening in the first place and making an arrest as necessary. And that's different than reactive policing, which is just putting people in jail. But let's solve the problems, make it disappear. Okay, B, reintroduce CompStat. I talked about it with Chief Johnson. CompStat is basically giving all, well, we're not in New York City where it started. We have 4 sergeants. We had the map of the city. Just envision the map of the city in 4 slices. District 1, 2, 3, or 4, A, B, C, and D. And each sergeant would meet monthly with me and the deputy, well, then he was Lieutenant, Deputy Chief Wagner. And I'd ask the question, what's the problems in your area? Because they're assigned a certain area. Now, they can't work that area only. They have the whole city. I don't have enough officers to keep that sergeant there forever. He works the whole city, but he's responsible for, say, Area 1 to look to solve problems. So I would say, what are the concerns in Area 1? And he would tell me. By the way, I knew what they were before I even asked him, because my assistant would tell me, you know, what the crime stats are. And then I would say, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? Are you working hotspots? Are you talking to citizens? Are you putting social media up to tell people to lock their bikes up because they're getting a lot of bikes stolen? What are you doing about it? And I do that with all the sergeants. The way it used to be was everybody just works the city. And really, it's not my problem. It's happening over there. Okay, that's CompStat. CompStat has 4 principles. Number 1, it's accurate and timely intelligence. Number 2, it's effective tactics. It's rapid deployment, and last, it's relentless follow-up and assessment. That's the 4 principles of CompStat. And we do that monthly. So establish a fully trained gang unit. And I don't mean we don't have enough officers to make them do that, you know, solely, but I want 3 officers trained in gangs and what they consist of. We had 1, Shelby Simonson used to do that. We're going to have 3. And they're going to be fully trained. So when we have a meeting where they can go out, give talks on gangs. D is hire a contractor to perform crime analyst functions. When we have these CompStat meetings, I'll have a crime analyst helping me find the stats. Where's the crimes, how many, and so forth. And that's going to be just a contractor. And E can matriculate into the Texas Recognition Program. If anybody's taught college, which I have, every college is accredited, just like hospitals. They have to be reassessed maybe every 3 years to make sure they're doing the right things. Well, that is a program like accreditation, and we would sign into it, make sure our policies are up to date and so forth. Texas City is a recognized, Texas recognized city. They have policies that meet standards. They're inspected every few years. I started that on my first run. I never finished it. We're going to try to finish that. In fact, we've already contracted with a retired person to help us get there, and Lieutenant Price is going to be helping him on that. Okay, goal number two, employ the department's special response team as often as practicable to conduct hotspot operations. We have, you know, we started that on my first run, and everybody calls it different names. Some call it neighborhood response teams. I've heard it's special enforcement teams. We chose the name Special Response Team, SRT. It's 3, because we don't have enough officers, we use overtime. We take 3 officers and they're trained. They go out and work on an overtime basis. It's usually 3 hours, and as they go out, there's somebody in charge of them. They don't answer calls during that time. They're free from calls, but the other officers answer the calls. So they're devoted, uncommitted, but to that job. And it might be to work on an area where there's speeding. It could be with drugs. It could be loud music. It could be anything. But that's their job for 3 hours. And it's been working. So what I'm saying here is use that team as much as possible. It kind of died away a little bit, but now we're back. In fact, we got a stipend. There's a stipend for people that are working at it. It's in the budget. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. They get every officer at least does one mission a month, gets $200 for that one mission. It's a stipend to motivate them to get in that team. Number 3, apply for a grant to form 3, the special response teams I just talked about. I'd like to have a grant where I could have as many as we can get. Just imagine we have one team now and it's coming from overtime. Let's see if I had 2 of those teams that are full-time. You imagine the number of missions we could do, and that's all they do. They don't answer calls. They just go out and hit hotspots. Any cop that knows about how this works would say hotspots is the magic bullet. Now, that's nothing I've developed. That is a principle by criminologists that the best thing to do is work hotspots, crime and drug hotspots, as quickly as possible. It saves you the resources, it's a short duration, and it stops crime in that area. So that's what we know it works. It's systematically and proven. Okay, what I'm also saying is, if we get these people on grant, let's say we get 2, 3-man teams on a grant, and as the mayor knows, there is a cost sometimes. You have a match. It doesn't come free. If we do get them, they would, let's say we get 2, 3-man teams. When they're not doing hotspots, they would be doing community policing. So they would be used for community policing and the hotspots and be separate from the regular shifts, okay? Should the grants not be possible on 3B, I'm gonna ask the council to give me, put 3 in the budget for starting October 1st, at least 1 3-man team. So that team would be funded by the city if we don't get grants. 4, we keep talking about lighting. I remember when I left many years ago, lighting was an issue, and it's still an issue. So I talked to council, and they approved at this point me going after a subject matter expert consultant to do a survey of the city, tell us where we need lights that are not there, or to where to fix the lights that are there, and to tell us what it costs. And Vincent knows it's not going to be it's going to be expensive. But I want to know, council needs to know how much it's going to cost, because they're concerned about lighting in their districts, and I don't blame them. So that'll be something we'd like to do is number 4. By the way, I've said it on my video yesterday. Criminals do not like daylight. They like to work in the dark. If you light up the city, it's a safety measure. Number 5, hire a social worker. We've had a social worker in the budget. This is the 2nd year, and we still haven't got it. I'm finishing up the job description. Councilwoman Yancey and another councilman, they're talking about it. You don't talk about it. And once we get this ironed out, the job description, because they're expert on that, we're going to announce it and hire somebody. Now, they're not going to work crime. You know that. They're going to go out and help the officers, people that need help. They're going to direct them to the right agencies. They might even help my officers who are suffering from stress, or when there's a serious incident, they might have a critical incident stress management session where we can vent, and this social worker would help us preventing PTSD. We're working with, and the initiate an MOU. Rose Lasso from the Resource Crisis Center. By the way, Mandolin is the one that helped us get that. We're going to work up an MOU with the RCC, and they're going to help us do things that we could never do without them. So that's going to be great. And we're going to have set up some committees. One of the committees is going to be a committee such as a diversity committee, the Chiefs Youth Advisory Committee. And finally, this is one of the goals I'm really interested in, is rejuvenating the Lamarck Ministerial Association. By the way, we have 2 associations. We had, when I got here, the first run, we had a group from Texas City, Reverend James Daniels, great guy, great group, but they're all from Texas City. We had one here, which was run by Richard Scott, Pastor Scott, and he was the chair, and it involved pastors from our city. So we need to bring that back. It disappeared, and we need both, but we got to work on that. So yeah, Terry.
I've got the problem with the resource center, but I just wonder, can we make it where it's a little more generic for the social work to do work with other, RCC, I know they have a store here, but I've never seen them really provide services. And I'm not sure that they provide all. So there's other groups, so we'll be sure that we cover something to make it clear the social work with other.
Yeah. The RCC, by the way, is going to enlist other entities. They're going to, well, what I gathered from when we talked, our meetings, the Resource Crisis Center, Rose Lazo, who's not the CEO, but down there, she's going to incorporate all the other ones to assist. They're all going to work together with us. But
I guess I'd like to see the social work more of that.
Yeah,
well, that's going to be in partnership with the social worker, it says. So
yeah, that's in the job description for the social worker,
right,
to work with all that. We just
right,
we were trying to get a lead organization right, that kind of lead out, but ultimately everyone will be integrated to work together.
Does that answer your question?
Because the only one that you really have is a family service center, and then of course a community and schools, they're involved as well too. So that's active, that actually have some end results basically where we can measure their goals. So for me, because I don't like people wasting my time or wasting other people's time, we want an organization that would give us some stats and numbers on how many people that we've serviced, and the Resource Crisis Center and the Family Service Center. Those are two groups that have that information. Also, Resolve It is another counseling group that Texas City ISD and a lot of ISDs in the Galveston County area utilize to connect with students. So the problem has been, Terry, is that they don't always communicate and they don't always connect, and then services get duplicated and then nothing ever happens. And so what we're hoping to do with social worker is that she'll be able to help connect all those groups for some end results and finding out, this child has moved from this area, and then also from the cops having everybody come in one place.
What was the issue was when I met with Rose Lasso from RCC, and Deputy Chief Wagner was there, Mandel was there were services we didn't even know existed. And now they're coming out. They're going to help us with services that we didn't even know about. And she told us the things that she was going to do is just amazing. So the social worker would, as Councilwoman Yancey said, would be the link, the bridge for us to use with, and we're going to have an MOU with the RCC. So, and by the way, they're going to, right, the RCC is going to be,
The way it goes, it sounds to me more like it would be, the RCC would be the main thing, but it really is the social worker that needs to be the
yeah, there's I don't know how many other agencies out there. They're going to be the connector for us and help us with that. It's going to be that, it's going to read that in the MOU. So it's not just going to be them. They're going to be the main source to get us all out. So.
Chief, can I say something? I know what he's, I hear what he's saying. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
And I remember, I know what he's saying. In our last meeting, we talked, I think, about that. And I think that what we had talked about, and I think RCC had also mentioned, is I think we just need to change some wording on there that just, because RCC is going to be one. And so I guess maybe the wording needs to just be a certain way, because the social worker, if all social workers have a model, right? And so they will be the ones that will be keeping a measure of like the data and all of that. So that won't necessarily come from any specific organization. An organization might keep certain data because it goes towards, they have to keep track of that because of their funding. But all social workers have, you know, a template or a model that they'll have. So the social worker, whoever you hire, will have a template set up where he or she is going to be able to measure, you know, what the outcome is and all of that. And so maybe that's just, I kind of get what Terry's saying. I guess what I'm understanding, hopefully, is that he wants to make sure, I guess, that other organizations are included in this, and that it's not just that, because there are people out that are there, I guess, that are not necessarily, I guess that's what I'm hearing, connected to RCC. Is that what I heard?
Right.
Yeah. So, but your social worker will set up the model. So those, that's going to happen.
Yeah. In fact, once again, the RCC, you were there. She said that she would garner all the resources of all the other agencies and help make sure. I didn't put that in there, but that's
right. But there are organizations that RCC doesn't. And so we just need to make sure that the language, that it includes that in there, because I think when we were on the call, the one before, RCC is one of them, but there are other organizations in the city that maybe don't work with them. So I think we just need to, we can go back and do that, because if you recall, Chief, we did talk about that a little bit in the last meeting.
Yeah, we had that other agency we called, and you know, she said she would help work with us.
Yeah, and so yeah, we'll play. You're going to have to present this, I think, at the next meeting and stuff like that, so we can just, you know, add something else in there. But yes, the way we had put it in there and agreed was the social worker would be the one that is going to be working with these organizations and all of that. And like I said, that social worker will be will set up the perimeters and the data on collecting all of that, so that he or she will be able to be coming back and giving report back to you and the council.
And the MOU needs to show that too.
Right. And the idea too is, Chief, and I guess that's the thing is, you know, the goal will be for you to create MOUs with other organizations, but there are other organizations in Lamarck that provide services as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before Councilman, Mayor? Any questions?
Yeah, let's open this up to council for questions or comments. I guess we'll start with Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't have any questions. However, at noon, the president had a press conference and he said he was allocating $350 million for community policing efforts. So just FYI, I just found that out. So that can definitely support this.
Great. I talked to Alice Ashley, who does grants, one of our grant writers, and she's looking for that grant, and we're going to plug into it as soon as we get it.
But he just announced it today at a press conference. So that's a great, great avenue for us. So that's all I want to tell you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you come back to me? I'm trying to find something to say.
Sure. You ready, Joe? You have anything? While we're waiting on Ms. Yancey, let me say this. Certainly, congratulations to all of you that have worked tirelessly on this process. You've given sacrifice of your time, your talents, your wisdom, your expertise in certain fields, and the city of Lamarck is grateful for all of you all's participation. Chief, certainly I want to thank you for taking this ball and running with it. We have been trying to move forward with a safe city discussion for quite some time. And the last 6 months seems like we were able to get traction. And that's due to your leadership, sir. So certainly I'm grateful for you. It's clear to me that in order for us to achieve the goal of being the safest city in Texas, we have to make more of an investment in our police department and within our law enforcement community. We have already, in this 2021-2022 budget, we've already provided for our police department 5 new positions. And we know that they are a deputy chief who's responsible for a lot of the targeted approaches that we intend to use in the prevention and the resolution of crime in our city. Certainly, we've added a narcotics detective who's responsible for investigating narcotics activities within our city and bringing those folks to justice. We've added a regular detective, if you will, who would be responsible for investigating those cases that happen to be perpetrated in our city. And they might be assigned to whatever type and style of case that the chief decides. We've added 2 street crimes officers that would primarily be responsible for directed and targeted intervention within our community as relates to crime, different types of crime, different geographical areas, social worker, 10 police cars. And certainly we are considering as a community building a new police station. All of these things happened in this 2021 budget outside of the new police station, which will come up for a vote. And these things happen with this council holding firm at this 55-cent tax rate. Major improvements to our police department. And yet, these subject matter experts have come together and have recommended that the work is still not done. We are facing a tax rollback. Thank you, Paige. We're facing a tax rollback election in May, and that threatens to roll back or repeal the new investments that we've made in our police department. Those investments that I've just delineated for us, those investments that will be designed to make an impact on our safety and our peace in this city. And yet they are being threatened by a tax rollback election. And this committee has said, even with those improvements, there's still more to do. That's what I'm hearing, Chief. I'm hearing that we still need more investment in our police department to the tune of 3 trained officers for gang units. Certainly we need a crime analysis contractor. We need more for our special response team, more officers, at least 1 special response team in addition to the one that we already have. I believe that there's a lighting study, assessment, and possible implementation of a lighting program that will cost no less than $500,000 easily. There is certainly community engagement efforts that are in the midst of these goals as well. These things cost money. It costs us money to ensure that we've done everything we can to be as safe as we possibly can. We cannot have a safe city if we are not willing to make the investments to be a safe city. And so I want to make sure that our residents are paying close attention to what is being said. Again, after the improvements that we've made that have been called into question by this tax rollback election, this group of people, police chiefs, former school district police chiefs, constables, all of these illustrious police chiefs and lieutenants on the panel, these public service experts, whether they come from community and schools or whether they come from other organizations that have helped us along the way. Everybody has said with consensus that there's still more to do in our community. And this council has to continue to move forward with these changes because it's a matter for us of safety. We live in Lamarck. We duck gunshots. Our banks are being robbed. Our citizens are being terrorized. Drugs are being sold in our city. Violent crime is happening in our city more than any other city in this county. And so we can't rely on outside influences to make these decisions for us. We have to understand that it is our responsibility with the facts that have been before us to make the decisions to keep our city safe. And we're at a crossroads. And we have to decide that we want to be safe. And I can't think of anything more important to me and my family than to keep us safe. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And certainly I believe that the people of Lamarck are willing to make that sacrifice. Let me ask you this, Chief. I think that Ms. Yancey might be ready, but here's what I would like to see with all of this. As we presented to council on the 14th of February, we need some measurable outcomes. These are brilliant goals, right? But I would like to see how we are going to measure these goals. In 6 months, a year, what do we expect? What can we anticipate? How will these goals being implemented reduce crime? How will they make us safer, right?
For sure.
Very good. Ms. Yancey, you ready?
Yeah. Thanks, Chief. I know you came on September 27th was your first day, and this was a major goal. And this is our last meeting, right, for this. So just want to applaud you for that. I do want to add to what our mayor was saying. We had an individual that came to us and spoke to the council and during our meeting. And this particular person is an elected official. She lives in Friendswood. And Friendswood is considered to be one of the safest cities in America, not just the state, but in America. And she was telling us that she doesn't think that, well, basically she told everyone that we raised taxes, which was inappropriate. But you can say that when you live in one of the safest cities in America. We don't. We live in a city where right now crime is the number one thing for us in our entire county. So I want to go on the record and say that it's easy for a person to come in our city that lives in one of the safest cities in Friendswood and tell us what we don't need. We need safety. And our tax dollars pay for that, right? And so it really disturbed me. And I didn't say anything then, but I've been really praying about that comment because it's almost as if saying that we don't deserve good police protection and we pay taxes too. I live here. So who are you to tell me, an elected official that doesn't live here, what we should do with our tax money? We have an issue here in Lamarck. And I've moved back 6 years ago to make a difference and to help in that area. So I applaud you because you've had to hear a lot, see a lot. We have too. We have, one thing that keeps me going is knowing that I was elected by the people to protect the people and to speak for the people. And I stay here too. And we want to be safe or safer than the city of Friendswood. So I thank you for staying focused and not being distracted with all of that and finally getting to this last meeting. Secondly, I want to say, I do like the part, your goal number 5 of bringing balance to try to make sure that we have a social worker. Thank you, thank you, thank you for hearing us on that, because we do want to give opportunities for people to choose to have options if they want to come out of crime. The substation, I'm going to call our substation that we're talking about our community empowerment center, a place where people can come to get information and resources, but also a place where cops can come and meet with citizens if they need to, but a safe place where we can all meet one another. Sometimes City Hall is intimidating, and sometimes the police station is quite intimidating. But perhaps if we have that center, people can feel like this is a safe place because we're trying to empower them to be totally self-sufficient and live the American dream. So that's why I brought that before council. And I thank you for laying this foundation, because from here, we can get to the next steps. So thank you so much for your time. And City of Lamarck, to our citizens, we are doing the best job that we can do. And it gets tough sometimes, but know that we remember the election results. We remember that we were voted here to bring something different, to stop doing the same thing and expect a different result. And I believe this foundation that you did is one of those projects. So thank you so much, Chief.
Very good. Very good. Does anyone have anything else? Yes, sir, Mr. Pettyjohn.
I see there's one little thing about the chief advisory committee. As somebody who's lived here for 14 years, is not from here, a former school board member, active in the youth, different things. What do the youth have to do here? We need something and to be coordinated in conjunction with the school district. I know when I was on the school board, there was very little cooperation between the city and the school board. And I'd like to see more of a focus on youth in these games.
And that, okay, Mayor, can I answer that?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, that's why you see these committees down here. As you remember,
just a little bitty committee. I want a goal.
You want to what, sir?
For a goal of what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's what the mayor mentioned with the metrics. I was going to make this into like, he wanted 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. I'm going to do that and present that back to the mayor and the council. But this youth it's going to be a Chiefs Youth Advisory Committee. We talked about that. So that's what exactly we're going to work on, getting the youth back in focus as far as what they need, working with the schools. I'm working with the schools right now, but it's going to be part of that committee of subject matter experts to help me get there. But you're right. We need to work on that. And that's why it's on there.
Very good. Any other questions?
I do have another question. So for your grants, so you're going to put a bid out to try to get like a grant worker, a grant writer, contractor to try to do that?
The grants that we have, Alice Ashley has written small grants. And she's the one I talked to. In fact, we were looking at one and fell apart because they didn't have enough money to even support us alone. She's looking at the community police grant that Councilman Carlson brought out. She's looking at any grant we could put out or we can apply for. If we don't get anything, my suggestion, as I mentioned in here, was to look at adding 3 to be a special response team full-time in the new fiscal year. And by the way, that the gang unit, that's not going to be any people. That's the people I have now. They're going to be trained, at least 3 people. We'll call that a gang unit. It's not adding anybody. It's coming from our staff. So the only additional people would be the people we might get on grant. If we don't get anybody on grant, is to get a 3-man, 3-person team through budget. Of course, the lighting would be budget. We'd have to budget for that once the consultant tells us what we need. So really, there's not a lot of expenditures other than the lighting and the 3-person team. I need to work out the metrics. I need to work on it, make it 1, 3, and 5 year goals as the mayor requested, and that'll be presented ASAP to the mayor.
Could you also find out for me, Chief, what percentage of crimes that are happening in the city of Lamarck are committed by juveniles?
Okay.
Because if we know that percentage, and if it's pretty high, sometimes you can get a DOJ grant specifically targeted at juveniles, and that may provide some extra income as well.
And juveniles is 17 or would be less than 17.
I was just reading the paper, and I think the last 2 or 3 crimes that were here in West Texas City were committed by 14 and 15-year-olds. So.
Okay. Anything else there?
Well, a couple things. Let's be clear. We are going out, and we always have been, right? We always have opened ourselves to the opportunities for grant funding. And so we are continuing to do that. That does not guarantee that we would be awarded those monies. And if we are awarded those monies, they are not awarded in perpetuity. They usually have a very significant time frame. And so at some point, we would, at some point, the city would then have to bring those folks onto our payroll. And so there is no way around an investment from our community. If we want to be safe, ultimately, we are going to have to make sacrifices. And again, let me say this to us. This is not fear mongering. This is fact bearing. The other day, a prominent restaurant owner from Bayou Vista got gunned down at a stoplight. I assume it was a stoplight. Got caught in the middle of maybe some road rage or something else. Just the other day. Down the street the other day, there were 5 gentlemen that got into a physical fight that ended in murder. In Hitchcock the other day, there was a young lady minding her own business with her whole life ahead of her that got gunned down because somebody decided to shoot her car up. This is not fear mongering. This is fact bearing. We are living in a very critical time in Mid-County. There is no way around it. If we want to be safe, we have to make sure that we are investing in our own safety. If we don't want to be safe, then we can roll taxes back and we can cut taxes down to the bare bones of what we believe they are, although they already are. And we can fend for ourselves, which is chaos. But I don't want to live in a community like that. And I believe that 95% of the Lamarck residents don't want to live in a community like that. But in order for us to live in a safe community, it's going to be incumbent upon us to take action. We can't sit on the sidelines on this one. We have to make our voices heard. Again, thank you all. Thank each and every panelist for participating in this. It was an incredible process. Chief, next steps for our council, the next steps will be you will present this to us for ratification at our February meeting. It will become part of who we are as a city, and the council will then have to navigate how we help move this forward from a budgetary and a political standpoint. So council, we'll see this again with the measurable outcomes, and we'll have a chance to again ratify it, approve it, and make it part of who we are and what we do. Anything else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
We're not going to vote because this is not a meeting. This is not an official meeting where we take action. This is a discussion. But certainly we stand adjourned.